Yeah. Bernie City Council, I want you to pay attention to what happened here on how quiet it got before we actually started. I'm just saying. We use this time to gavel in and call to order this special call meeting for transportation planning and updates. County of Kendall, and we've got the City of Fair Oaks, we've got Fernie ISD, and we've got Bernie City Council. Thank you for everyone for being here. If we could, for just a moment, well, before I begin that, Judge, would you like to gavel in the county commissioners, please?
No gavel, but special call meeting in the county commissioners court.
Thank you, Judge. Mayor?
No gavel, special meeting for transportation planning for Fair Oaks Ranch Board.
Rich?
Special meeting of Bernie ISD Board of Trustees.
I think we got everybody gaveled in. If y'all would join me for a moment, please stand for a moment of silence, and we'll have a pledge to our two flags. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Again, I want to thank everyone for being here. Some of the ground rules, TxDOT is going to be going through the number of items that you see on this agenda. If you would, if there is a question, we don't have to wait at the end. If you would just raise your hand, I will see that, and when they're done finishing up a comment or a point, I will call on you, and they are open to receiving those comments and or questions. You'll also see on the agenda that there is a place for updates afterwards. I want to remind everyone, it still is an open meeting. Got to follow those rules that are on the agenda. And if you start making some comments and wander too far, we'll probably try to bring you back to center one more time so we don't violate those rules very badly. So I want to introduce to you our guests. Mario, I'm going to ask you to introduce your staff here and then turn it over to you as we go. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate it. First of all, thank you all for inviting us to this workshop. This is, I think, the fourth that we've done, and it's a great forum for us to be able to communicate the projects and hear from y'all about what the priorities are. And a lot of the discussions at these meetings is what's generated the support for the projects that we're going to talk to you about. So this is a tremendous forum, and I'm very appreciative of the judge and the mayor having this vision to get these going. It really helped us a lot. I do want to introduce our staff here that's with us. I'm sure you know all of them. You've seen them before. And Jonathan Bean, our Director of Transportation Planning and Development, will do some of the presentation concerning some of the planning efforts we have. Joe Mendez, who is the Assistant Area Engineer in the Kerrville area office, but actually is housed here in Bernie, is managing all of the I-10 projects and some of the 46 projects, so he'll talk to you about the status of some of those. And then Dale Pica was our transportation or traffic engineer for the district. We'll update you some of the traffic items that we have ongoing. So we got a good team here for you. I know Chad Lux is in the audience, our main supervisor here for Bernie, does a great job of keeping our roads well maintained here in this county. Just joking with the mayor real quick. You know, we have our chairman for our transportation commission is Chairman Bruce Bugg from San Antonio, and so he texted me the other day. I was I'm sure where I was, but I got a text from him, and I tried to get those back to those pretty quick. And he just asked a question: when are we going to get done with I-10? And I said, so I said, let me call you or call me when you get a chance, because I don't think I can put that in the text. So anyway, so I explained all the projects we have and everything that we still got coming up. So he got the gist of it. He said, well, I was just asked, or, you know, again, there's so much going on, and it's all due to the growth, obviously, in this area, and some of the funding opportunities that we've had. So we're looking forward to this. I'm going to turn it over to, I think Joe's going to start first, so I'm going to turn it to Joe, and then we'll go to the presentation.
Okay, well, I guess I'll get started with, as far as the operational improvements. The main goal of the I-10 projects that are ongoing are mainly to go ahead and improve not only the movement and the safety of the frontage roads and the main lanes, but what we're doing is we're coming along from San Antonio towards Bernie is converting the frontage roads. As you can tell on the upper left corner, we have 2 lanes in each direction of the main lanes, and we have two-way traffic. And what we're doing as we're making the improvements, out here toward Bernie, is converting the main, or keeping the main lanes as they are now, but converting the frontage roads to one-way traffic. That improves, of course, the safety and better movement of the traffic. As far as the projects that we have out there right now, I'll start at the very top. We have the I-10 project at Fair Oaks Parkway. That one we started late 2016, and right now we still are on schedule. We're looking to have everything completed as far as punch list, final striping, signage, everything by the middle of this year. If everything goes according to plans, sometime next month, we should actually have the new traffic that's going to be connecting Fair Oaks Parkway to Tarpon on the main bridge, and we'll be moving or making lane shifts as well. The second project, which is from I-10 at Fair Oaks to FM 3351, that one is moving along. We're looking for a completion of this fall. Now we'll have everything completed. We'll have the main lanes in the final configuration, and the frontage roads will then be converted to one-way. So that would be there at Ralph Fair. Everything will now be one-way, going westbound and eastbound as well. And the last project shown on the slide is from FM 3351 to the Dominion. That one is shown as being completed, but let's not confuse that with the project that's ongoing now. The project that we have on the slide was actually the frontage road conversions and an additional frontage road right behind Leon Springs, and also some improvements as far as the turnaround on Bernie Stage Road in Leon Springs. The project that's ongoing right now is being handled by another office, which is making the improvements to the main lanes by adding additional lanes. On this project, or this slide, we have the frontage roads, which is going to be a oh yeah, it's going to be we just let this project. It was from State Highway 46 up to Scenic Loop. We'll be also doing the frontage road conversions. That one's going to be roughly about a 3-year project. As noted, it's, let me go back to this real quick. On this one, it was the I-10 intersection. We added a frontage road about 3/4 of a mile east of State Highway 46. And on this project, we have completed it. We have the lanes in their final configuration. And on this one, we won't be having to do any kind of conversion, since we went ahead and made that one way. The second project that's noted is I-10 at Scenic Loop. That one was to raise the interstate and give us better clearance as far as the bridge at Scenic Loop. Right now, we're pretty much on schedule. Again, we should be wrapped up with everything completed, punch list, signage, striping by the summer, just a few months away. The I-10 from State Highway 46 to Scenic Loop, that one was just let this month, and it was awarded, or will be awarded, to Sterling Construction. It's a $65 million project, and if everything goes well, we'll be starting it the middle of this year.
June, July, and it'll be roughly about a 3-year job. And with this project, we'll actually be converting the Friends Road 46 to scenic loop to one-way. We'll be doing some ramp reversals and some upgrades to the ramps and the signalized intersections. The next project that we'll be letting this summer will be from Balcones Creek Road, not the actual Balcones Creek or county line, but it's Balcones Creek Road, and it'll go up to Fair Oaks Parkway. On this job, it'll be similar to the one that you see down at I-10 and Old Fred. We will be actually doing a grade separation by raising the interstate out at Balcones Creek Road. And at the same time, we're also going to be converting the Forenza roads to one-way. And then we have another one coming up. The funding is still pending. Jonathan might have more, or will have more information on that. But on this section, it'll be from Scenic Loop up to Balcones Creek Road. And that'll be getting the same improvements as far as converting the French roads to one-way. And also we'll be adding a couple of bridges at Balcones Creek just due to the flooding to make sure that we have access on the French roads.
So what, everything that Joe's talked about so far is all funded, it's either completed or it's moving forward. The one caveat is the scenic loop to the county line. It's kind of a gap section that's not technically funded yet. We're doing all of the planning work, the construction plans, all the work necessary to move it forward towards letting. We're still looking to seek the funding. We do think there's a good chance that it could still move forward in that spring 2019 timeframe. We're going to really gun for that. So that's where that stands right now, but it's tentative.
We do have another project that's going to be starting actually in about a week and a half, and that's going to be on Main Street from the north IH10 intersection down to the south IH10 intersection. And this is just going to be, we'll be doing some base repairs, milling, seal coating, and overlaying the whole section of roadway from edge of pavement to edge of pavement, from, as I mentioned, from I-10 on the north side to I-10 on the south end. Roughly about a $2 million project with Angel Brothers being awarded that job. The good thing is, mainly all the operations will be at night, so we shouldn't have any kind of traffic issues during the day. Though there will be a few days where we do have traffic or lane closures during the day, but we've reassured the city that it will only be from roughly 9 a.m. until 3 p.m. And I'll turn this over to Dale.
Thank you, Joe.
Do we have any questions?
Questions or comments on this first part?
Yes, ma'am.
I have a question on the project on Main Street. You're talking about milling Main and then repaving it.
Yes, ma'am.
The large crown in the middle of the road that in the past heavy rains have flooded some of those businesses in there, is that going to be lowered at all?
Right now, we're just matching the grade. As far as any drainage issues, as far as that I know, we don't have any, or that I'm aware of. We are making some modifications near River Road to add some drainage at that location, but overall, the project will just be resurfacing per se.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Any others? Okay. Thank you, Joe.
Thank you, Joe. I'm going to try a little different format now, I'll stand up here. I'm going to talk about, Joe talked about some of these projects coming to fruition with the striping and signing, and that's really a lot of what I do on a day-to-day basis, is handle a lot of the signing, striping, and signal issues. And it's always a very small portion of all of our projects, but it seems to always generate the most intense discussion and complaints to my office. Because we're all drivers, right? And we deal with this every day. They're very visible things. Pedestrian issues are something we deal with every day as well in our 12-county area. No exceptions here in Kendall County and the city of Bernie. We have been asked by the city and others to look at some pedestrian crossing locations here in town within the city limits of Bernie. And over the last couple of years, we've considered some things. We've been, I say, trying some different alternatives in other parts of our district. We always are real careful with implementing something new for pedestrians, with the exception that signalized intersections, because that's always the safest place to cross pedestrians is when you have a protected crossing. The 3 locations I'm talking about here today, these are unprotected crossings. And I might add, those that are familiar with some of our laws in Texas, Texas is one of the few states in the nation that has a yield to pedestrian law. A lot of states have a stop for pedestrian law, but Texas is still a yield to pedestrians. So we have to keep that in mind when we build pedestrian improvements, especially at unprotected locations. I left it clear. So the first location is along 46 or River Road at Plant Street or Plant Avenue, there by where Plant tees in to 46 by the river. The second location is along East Blanco or RN 474 at the old number 9 Greenway Trail where it crosses. And the third location is on Main Street between Hickman and Hosek. Yes, Hosek. So the first one, 46 and Plant, this is one that we are pursuing pretty aggressively right now. This is a location that makes a lot of sense. There's already, the city has done a lot of improvements on Riverside with the parking and the trails along the river, and there's a natural crossing there at Plant, and we're just going to emphasize that crossing with some added signals and markings on the roadway. Again, this is not a protected crossing. This is still a yield to vehicles where pedestrians have to yield to vehicles. One of the options that is most likely, this is a project we built in San Antonio a couple of years ago across a 6-lane roadway, but it had a median or a refuge in the middle. This is where pedestrians would push a button on one side or in the middle to activate the flashers, and then they would cross whenever there was a safe gap. And that's probably the most likely scenario here at 46 and Plant. Another option is to put those flashers overhead so they're more visible to the vehicles. And then a third option is what's called a rectangular rapid flashing beacon. The federal, US DOT and federal highways have weighed in on this recently, and they recently said we couldn't put these in because these types of flashers were not permissible, but now they have come back and said these are permissible for pedestrian use. What's different here is instead of a circular, it's a rectangular strobe, and research has shown that vehicles pay attention to this strobe a lot more than the amber circular beacon. So we're considering that as well. Part of this project, let me back up. As part of the project, we will build in what is called curb extensions on both sides. It's basically building in about 6 feet of curb and shortening the width of the roadway that the pedestrian has to cross. So basically you're crossing 2 lanes of traffic rather than the 2 shoulders of traffic. So they can stand in this pedestrian refuge area and wait for a safe gap in traffic. So that would be on both sides. And then parking would continue beyond these curb extensions there at Plant. A couple issues in the design that we're working on right now. These are some accessible spaces on the park side or on the riverside that we have to relocate. Anytime you put a pedestrian crossing in when it's unprotected, you want to clear the path on both sides so that there's no parking or other obstructions, so that pedestrians can be very visible. Those curb extensions make the pedestrian visible, and we want to eliminate parking probably within about 50 feet each side of the crossing. So we'll be working with the city to relocate these. The city put these in some time ago, so we need to relocate them. There are ADA rules when y'all did this project on how much space you had to create for accessibility, so we don't want to take that away. So that will have to be replaced somewhere else. So this first project is, we're going through some design options now. I'll work with the city to clarify a few things and preferences the city might have. As especially the accessibility, on-street parking issues. This is about a $150,000 project. I'm grouping it with 4 other locations in our area, our 12-county area, so it'll be about a $600,000 or $700,000 project. When we're ready to go, it will bid in November, and with our contracting process, we should be ready to start work about a year from now in the spring. Before I go to the next 2 projects, are there any questions about 46 and plan? Yes, sir.
Yeah, I think it's a very good location for pedestrian improvements, but that same location really backs up the traffic. One car seeking to go left on a plant, really hold up traffic for 2-3 minutes, whereas the flow coming the other way. Any thought given to like turn on
There's very little pavement
Right.
on, just in limited right of way there too. So I wish we could put turn lanes in. Turn lanes also increase the distance the pedestrian has to cross as well. So this will do nothing to solve congestion. It'll be more for the recreational times, maybe the holidays, the weekends, where there might be more pedestrian activity on the car side.
Any other questions?
A couple more slides on the next 2.
Okay.
So the next project at Blanco, or East Blanco, and old number 9, we've been looking at this over the last year, and I confess I haven't fully studied all of our options. I don't have a solid game plan on this one yet. This particular crossing is the old rail line that's been converted to a trail. We have pedestrians crossing here. There's about 10,000 cars a day on Blanco. The speed is in our favor. It's 35 miles an hour. This picture is taken about where a school flasher is located, because we have a school crossing about 200 feet from here. And just on the other side of this crossing is a public street intersection. So remember what I was saying earlier about having unprotected crossings. This is a classic mid-block crosswalk location that I still have concerns about, because we have a 4-lane cross-section. We have no refuge in the middle. So someone has to cross about 50 feet from one side, one curve to the other to get to the other side safely. Now, they may be doing it already. My concern as an engineer is striping, signing, flashing something that gives a pedestrian false sense of security that they can just walk out. Right now, there's nothing there, and maybe that is sufficient for right now, because it makes them pause and stop, and maybe they go to where the school crosswalk is to cross. So anyway, that's something we'll continue to find a good solution for. I need to talk to the school district about options on the school zone there to see how active that is, but we do have a reduced speed school zone. Any kind of flashers here would probably conflict with that school zone. And now, I've got one more slide to talk about the next one. Any questions on this one? Yes.
We get a lot of comments, or I have received a lot of comments. There is a crossing guard, but vehicles still refuse to yield when children are trying to cross. But you're saying that a flashing light giving motorists, alerting motorists that they're to yield to pedestrians that are not in favor of that?
That's correct. Our law gives the vehicle the right of way. The only time that a pedestrian has the right of way is if they're already halfway across and trying to make it to the other side, then the vehicle has to stop. That's the way the wording is in our state law. And we don't want to contradict that any by putting up a sign that says stop for pedestrians, because that would contradict state law. Now, are you saying that children are in the crosswalk when the crossing guard is there and drivers are not paying attention? Okay.
In fact, the driver has been brushed by automobiles. So it's
The crossing guard is.
cross guard, I'm sorry. But, so it is an issue with that.
Let me ask you this, is the city hiring the crossing guards or the school district hiring the crossing guards? Do we know? Usually the cities do.
We're
funding
Okay.
Okay, I've got a couple ideas. We can talk after the meeting about maybe increasing the presence of that crossing guard, a couple of devices that might help. But that's, if there's some active enforcement of that, that would definitely help. It's almost like a school bus stopping and unloading with red flashers on. It's just terrible if drivers are not paying attention to that. Okay?
Any other comments or questions?
One more slide. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Does state law prohibit municipalities from passing laws that drivers must stop for pedestrians?
State law will trump that.
So no.
Well, you could, it doesn't prohibit it. State law will still trump local ordinance. Being an engineer, pretending to be a lawyer, I think that's my interpretation.
Low man on the totem pole, Dale. Thank you for your comment.
Dale's a good guy, he's got a good name there. So the third site is on Main Street between Hickman and Hosack. This is a location where it's within the limits of the overlay job that Joe was talking about. It's there by Veterans Park. The location is actually, the city adopted an ordinance a couple years ago supporting medians along Main Street. That's we have, in frank terms, we've been burned before with going to the public and constructing medians where we didn't do a lot of vetting of that. That project that we built in San Antonio a couple years ago, we put a median in, a short median, and the city of San Antonio did a lot of public outreach to make sure that the public were okay with those median, with that median, because it does affect access to properties. This is a 5-lane roadway. It's limited right-of-way, over 20,000 cars a day. So you can imagine, instead of at Blankover crossing 50 feet, this here is about 60 feet of roadway that we'd have to cross. Fortunately, the speeds are in our favor. It's still 35. But before we do any kind of project here, we really need to go to the public, even with the city's help, to find a good solution here. If it's, maybe it's an overall master plan for medians along the entire, or at least south of 46, it's, you know, a good portion of 46, rather than just a spot location. So this project is still being considered, what I say project, this area is still being looked at as an option. We're getting some feedback from the public and the city. That's all I have on pedestrian improvements.
Any questions or comments, Matt?
Good question. At one point, there was some discussion about a possible traffic light at Main and Oak Park that would kind of slow some of that traffic. Is that still even being considered?
Oak Park is where in relation to Hickman?
It's further south.
Further south, okay.
It's right at the top of that hill on Main Street.
I want to say it rings a bell, but I can't comment on whether we've actually studied it for a full signal or not. I can check though. It really depends on, when we look at signals, there's some criteria we have to meet in terms of traffic volumes, or pedestrian volumes. And if it's a real low volume street, it probably would not, but I don't know the volumes on it. But it certainly does. Signals ultimately do help slow traffic down along an arterial.
Dale?
I have a
Yes,
question.
sir.
Do we know the proportion of 46 through traffic versus local traffic right behind?
You know, Jonathan, I don't know if y'all looked at some of that in the planning side.
We have, in our Kendall Gateway study, we have looked at, you know, how much the traffic, say, coming from the east of town and west of town, how much is going through, how much is going to the north, how much is going to the south on I-10. So we do have some of that data. I don't have it all up here. We did find, and I'll talk about it a little bit, we did find it kind of interesting that the majority, a higher volume of traffic is coming from the east is going to the north than going to the south. So it's surprising. I guess it's my turn now anyway, so anyway. I would echo a lot of the things that Mario said as far as this forum has given us a very good forum to work with this area on a lot of our planning efforts. I'm going to talk a little bit about some more near-term improvements as well as some more long-term planning efforts that we have on the horizon next time. First project I want to talk about is the I-10 North Creek to 87 project in Comfort. Commissioner Durden has been very instrumental in getting that project moving forward, and so we appreciate that, as well as the whole court. The project is from North Creek Road to just south of 87 on I-10. And it's pretty small, but if you get this handout, this is a handout, you'll be able to see the improvements that are shown on the slide. But basically, we're doing some frontage road improvements. There's some frontage road stubs, if you will, out in this area. So what we would do is complete the frontage roads out here from North Creek back to 87 and provide some ramp reconfigurations to make more efficient access in this area and improve the overall intersection operations at 87. The project's cost is about $5 million, and we are moving forward with a May 2019 levy. At $5 million, up until this last December, was an unfunded need. However, the commission has chosen to use some of their discretionary funds to fund that $5 million. The anticipated construction duration is about 18 to 24 months on this project. Any questions on this? Yes, sir.
Is the access going to go up to that new factory that's,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thanks, Commissioner. I'm going to talk now about the I-10 added capacity expansion. This project's actually under construction. It's in the Bexar County area between FM 30 to 51 and Lock and Terra Parkway. I'll show a kind of a cross-section of what we're proposing, or what we're actually building right now here in just a second. It's about a $70 million, just shy of $70 million project. Flatiron is the contractor out there, and they're moving along pretty well. Those of you who keep into San Antonio see that there's a lot of activity going on. The project led in May of 2017, and we anticipate being complete in late 2019. This is a cross-section of, the existing condition is 2 main lanes in each direction. We're expanding to 3 general purpose lanes, so there'll be 3 lanes instead of 2, just like you have today. And on top of that, there'll be an additional lane in each direction. There'll be a high occupancy vehicle lane. The next project's really just a continuation of that cross-section up to State Highway 46 in Berkeley. Very much a longer range planning effort. We're just about to get started on the planning efforts and environmental studies associated with that. It would be just shy of about $200 million to construct that segment all the way out to State Highway 46. When we get to the point to where we may see some of those projects becoming funded, they may get funded perhaps, I would anticipate it being sort of a phased approach, as opposed to, it's possible it could go, it go all at once. However, I would expect, based on past experience, that we would probably get that done in segments. We'll talk about State Highway 46 expansion east of town, over by Champion High School, between Esser and Hammond Road. Basically, what we're doing there, y'all are probably all familiar with it, because we've talked about it a number of times in this forum. We're finally moving towards construction this spring, but we're going to be expanding the road from 2 lanes to 4 lanes with bike lanes and sidewalks and continuous left turn lanes throughout the project. Some facts about the project. It's scheduled for June of this year. We're also estimating a construction cost of about $11 million. We believe the construction duration is about 18 months, give or take. Just some highlights of our project development status, where we are environmentally cleared. Our construction plans are at 95% plans. We're getting ready to turn those into Austin for review. And then we've got all of our right-of-way acquisition is complete. The main highlight here is we do still have some utility conflicts. They're mainly the overhead lines that are out there. I wanted to highlight that the City of Bernie power poles are on the critical path, so we're working with you guys on that to get that moving forward. That's really key as far as the project not being delayed, is to work with getting those utilities out of the way. A lot of other utilities are on those poles as well. So before I move on to the Kendall Gateway planning effort, I did want to mention, I don't have any slides in here on Ralph Fair Road and and State Highway 46, but those are planning efforts that are on our horizon. We're getting ready to kick off our study on FM 3051 and Ralph Fair Road from 46 all the way down to I-10. We see that as a really important corridor for the long term. The traffic volumes are picking up, and the population growth continues, so we do see that as such an important connection route between 46 and I-10. With Camp Bullis being where it is, it's a great thing for our community to have military installations nearby, but there's a lot of space taken up there. There's no opportunity for any other corridors, transportation corridors in that area, so it's very important that we preserve FM 3051 as a mobility corridor, and we're getting ready to discuss that. We want to work very closely with the Fair Oaks and the community on making sure we do that right. I know there's some context there that we need to keep in mind. So, I want to talk a little bit about the Kendall Gateway study. I know we've been talking about this for several years. It's been a project or a planning effort that started and stopped a time or two. And we feel really good about the direction things are heading at this point. We've had very good participation from the local community. TxDOT is in the lead, but as the slide indicates, we have had very good local support from the city of Bernie and Kendall County. Y'all have been at all the meetings. You've helped us drive, how the study is conducted and what we are, and how we conduct the public involvement and how we so getting into it. We, as everybody here knows, we had a joint resolution from Kendall County and City of Bernie that was sent to TxDOT that allowed us to move forward. We knew that this community was very interested in us participating with them to try to find some viable corridors to improve transportation, find more efficient routes, rather than using 46th through town and Main Street as the through route. It's been a very data-driven project and planning effort to date. There's some technical analysis associated with that data, but some other important data is the public involvement and the outreach that we have conducted, which has been very robust. If those of you who have been involved, we've had a technical work group, a stakeholder working group, as well as open houses with the public. We've had individual stakeholder meetings all throughout. And it's been very inclusive of the public. Been very pleased with kind of how we've gotten feedback throughout. We just recently had our fourth technical work group, stakeholder work group combined meeting, and I thought that was very beneficial to us to get feedback from the community on everything we've done today. As stated here, the goal of the study is to identify viable corridors with the intent of preserving right-of-way. As this area continues to grow, it's really important for us to together identify a new route through this area. The method of corridor preservation hasn't necessarily been determined. Is it going to continue forward as a project, or is it going to be more of a preserving right-of-way for platting? Those are discussions that will be had as we move forward. What we're doing right now is just a planning study. It's a tool that will help us all make decisions as we get to adopt concepts that come out of this study. Again, the purpose of the study and purpose of the viable corridors that we are identifying is really has really twofold: is to provide an efficient route around Bernie in order to preserve Bernie. We really want to provide an efficient route to improve transportation while we preserve, and identify all the environmental constraints in the area and try to go around them and try to send that through traffic around. Talk a little bit about what are the needs that have been identified as part of the study. I mentioned a couple of times this area is growing, lots of population growth. The main routes in Bernie, 46, 87, if you look out to 2040, they're going to be in the red. They're going to be over capacity, and in some cases they already are. So that population growth will continue, and following the reciprocal traffic growth will just make that worse. There's also a lack of east-west connectivity. I know I'm preaching to the choir here, but that's one of the obvious things that have come out of the study. If you're coming in on 46 and there's a bad accident that shuts the road down, or if there's a flood of some kind that that has happened, where it shuts down 46 or Ralph Fair Road, there's really not a lot of connectivity out in this area. They go way out of your way, so that's another good purpose for finding another new redundant violent corridor. The third need is really the traffic that is currently going through Bernie, and the only purpose for being in Bernie is to go through. So there's quite a bit of traffic, on the order of about 20,000 vehicles in the planning horizon that would be just in Bernie just to go through. So in addition to collecting existing traffic data and working through just gathering data on what's going on today, we've looked out into the future in 2040 using NPO's travel demand model. And these graphics hopefully will help you help illustrate what would happen in 2040 without the concepts. You see all the roadways in Bernie basically are orange or red, but in the heart of Bernie you're red. You're over capacity, you're saturated. With the concepts that we have laid out, you can see that we may still have some problems in Bernie, but it's much better. You see more green, you see more orange, and you still see a little bit of red. There's still going to be some congestion in Bernie in 2040, but you see that there is a major benefit associated with constructing a relief route along Kendall Gateway. So another important concept is, on average, the concepts, if they are implemented, they would remove about 40% of the trucks that currently use the streets in Bernie. This is just a graphic showing the Kendall Gateway concepts that we have laid out today. The current status of the study is that we started with a universe of options, and we kind of started to whittle our way down. So you have lots of spaghetti all over the map, all the possible routes that we could possibly consider. And then we start laying out environmental constraints and moving through the study. And we have different levels of screening. You can see right now we're at the level 2 screening. We've identified universe of alternatives. We've done a level 1 screening, which is basically a fatal flaw analysis. And then we've looked at some reasonable alternatives. And now we're screening those alternatives, and with the goal of getting to a final recommended alternative, or possibly multiple alternatives in some cases. So the next steps moving forward is to refine the reasonable concepts, and we're going to take into account everything we've gathered, both the technical data as well as the technical work group, the stakeholder work group, workshop, and other feedback we've received. We'll reduce the reasonable concepts to the recommended concepts, and then we'll present those recommended concepts at a third public meeting. It'll be in the spring, most likely in May. That hasn't actually been scheduled yet. It'll be at the same location as the previous open houses at the Kendall Home. And then the ultimate deliverable is a draft feasibility study report. That'll be in spring, maybe pushing summer by the time that feasibility report comes out. We'll be able to present that to this group through the various council and commissioners. That's all I have. I think that's all we have formally, so, yes, sir.
John, on the Gateway study, leading up to that 2018 presentation, what is your expectation of the city and the county with regard to response to that? Are you going to be asking that we adopt it, that we consider it, that we do anything with it? And secondly, who's responsible for, say, we get a route designated? Does the state buy any of the right of way? Is it all county? Is it combination of county, city, dedication? What's the process there?
I like all county.
Yeah.
Sounded good.
I thought you might.
Go ahead.
I'll take a stab, Mark, if you want to help. But I think we probably all the above are options for consideration. Again, this was a planning effort to just see, first of all, does it even make sense to build a new viable corridor on new location, or should we just fix what's there? So far we've determined that yes, we do believe there needs to be new routes around Bernie. Then once we come up with some recommended concepts, those will be presented, and the hope would be that the council and the commissioners court would be able to adopt them in some way. Typically, what would happen in communities is you would have a thoroughfare plan, whether you probably have a county thoroughfare plan and a city thoroughfare plan. And then those would be formal documents that as development does occur, there would be the ability to preserve that right of way through reservation, dedication as development occurs. In order for there to actually be a project, there would have to be some effort made towards finding some funding. Obviously, if the local community would have some, I don't know exactly what percentage, but they would have to put in some match on that right of way. And TxDOT possibly could, if there was a funded project that we could see out on the horizon. That would have to be something that would be added to the long-range plan at the Metropolitan Planning Organization, and it would have to be a reasonable funding source identified. Is that okay?
Yeah, no, that's perfect. I would just add one thing is that there may be some further discussions after the report is completed and accepted by both the city and the county, and including the thoroughfare plan. There probably will be some discussions, Commissioner, to maybe start to look at, okay, what will be the priorities? Obviously, we're going to have a general concept of routes, but we're going to have to start thinking together as to, well, which one do we look at first from a priority standpoint, from a traffic standpoint, if that makes sense. Then we start to look at it. Otherwise, if we keep looking at that large project, we may never be able to get there. So I would think we start looking at prioritizing segments that we can try to pursue the funding through NPO, other means. But I think one step at a time, obviously. I think the long-term goal is to start identifying projects, and then we can start working through the right-of-way environmental.
And that's an important point, is that it would have to be additional study on the environmental before we can even get to that right-of-way step. The study does intend to make some recommendation on priority. So,
Roy?
Yeah, the question I have, or I guess what I'd like to hear y'all talk about, some of the information that y'all have shared in the past shows that there's a lot of population growth out here, but the movement of people is still generally back and forth to the big work center, San Antonio, there. Could y'all talk to us a little bit about what your plans are for integrating the things that are going on there to, this, and I've been part of these discussions, it sounds very Kendall-centric, but really the traffic is moving back and forth there. Certainly in Fair Oaks, we're very interested in knowing what that resulting flow is going to look like, how it may impact us.
absolutely. This area is part of the Metropolitan Planning Organization, and so as such, we plan as an organization. We have members on the technical advisory committee as well as the policy board that represent this area. And so not only do we have that, the staff of the MPO and consultants that work for them, they're always planning for and looking at it. Like I mentioned, the 2040 travel demand model through the MPO that we used for this study. So that takes into account all the demographics associated with not only this area, but Bexar County and all the surrounding areas that so allow exactly what you're saying, that it's not just Kendall-centric, it's not just about Bernie or Fair Oaks, because we know it all kind of flows together right now, and it's looking more, so it's kind of good.
Rich?
Yeah, so Roy's point, I mentioned that there's going to be a study that's showing that 3351. And what do you expect to get out of that study?
Well, we hope the end deliverable will be a schematic design. So you will basically be able to tell how many lanes will there be, 20 years from now, will there be an overpass somewhere, perhaps at 46 and 31? What kind of concepts will come forward as a blueprint for us to then move to the next stages? We do think that we could even move into the environmental phase with this study. There is some funding actually identified to expand Ralph Fair Road between I-10 and Kingwood, I believe. And there's a project that's moving forward at the MPO right now to raise the low water crossing basically across the Civil Creek. So all of that will be kind of intertwined in the study as well. You know, because of the drainage concerns when Ralph Fair Road is overtopped with not even a 100-year flood, you have some pretty good connectivity issues, people trying to get home.
Mayor?
We're going to be looking at issues like, for example, noise control, even today on Ralph Fair Road. We're starting to hear from our residents back up there, the noise is making their backyard unusable. I guess longer range is we could, of course, in the middle of some major foundational studies in our city right now. We're a veteran community, likely to stay mostly that, but at the same time, our demographic is changing to younger families, mostly because of well regarded within the school district in our semi-rural setting. And I think many of those families are going to start wanting to look for perhaps at least some niche type, commercial type things available, not, maybe big box stores or anything like that. But those are things that I worry about as we begin planning how Ralph Fair Road will be expanded, maybe reasonable to that, and also be sensitive to the certain residents out there.
Absolutely. I mentioned that as we move forward, we've been talking with Tobin about your planning study that he's done, and we want to make sure that we're planning in concert with some of y'all's efforts that are already underway. We want to be context sensitive. We don't want to be anywhere we're not wanted, and we want to do what's right for the community. We also are thinking about the through traffic. A lot of people are going to need to use Ralph Fair Road. It's a very important connection. So hopefully we can kind of find that balance. We will be doing a noise analysis as part of the environmental studies. What it does is it determines whether it's reasonable or feasible to build a noise wall in certain locations. It's usually residential areas, but those come up. We try to do our best within our regulations to do that.
And I don't want to get into that, but is there any, or what is the status of any thought, if there is any, on using common to Blanco to try to create some connectivity back to 1604 that way? No,
I'm not quite sure I understand the question, but
well, it's what and I could have read this late at night or something, but, it seems like I've seen conceptual drawing, say you take Almond Road, 46, across 351, keep going on, and there's, a connection to Blanco Road that then would take people to 1604 one direction or to 281 in another direction, try to handle, some of those capacity needs that are coming from, that part of Bernie and between Bernie and Comal that are trying to get to the work center and the same thing.
certainly it's a transportation network. So there's no one road that's going to solve all the problems, that's for sure. You don't just need one north and south and one east and west. But an Almond Road is already there, so I can see that being an important one to focus on and plan around. It isn't a tech stop road, so you probably won't see us doing a lot of planning efforts. Some of the routes, I think, on the Kendall Gateway do kind of go along Hammond Road. That's a new location study that we're doing. But when you're talking about east of Ralph Fair going over to Blanco, we probably won't get involved in that other than just maybe at the MPO level, just understanding what's going on region-wide. But again, it's Blanco Road's important, and the road is important. I know that Bear County does have a project in the MPO mix to continue expanding Blanco Road up to the county line. And I know it's on Omaha County's radar to expand that as well. That's a very important route as well. It's kind of like another route Fair Road.
I want to give everybody a chance to ask any questions, and I started looking at both corners, and Dale, I'm sorry, but I'm going to yield to my Mayor Pro Tem. I got to keep her happy over here, so I'm going to start over here, all right? Nina, do you have any comments on any of the subjects we've covered?
My question's really quick. Are you going to do a traffic noise study on the 46 expansion? Namely, there's 2 or 3 subdivisions running there. I've had that question.
We already did. There isn't going to be any noise walls that I'm not aware of. Joe, you don't look either, right?
Anything else? Mary Ann? I'm coming. Come right around the table. I'll be with you. Mary Ann? Any questions? Judge? Mayor? Rich?
Just one follow, east of town, east of Bergen 46, there's been some widening, that's your project, or? Away from-
Oh, the passing lane project? Yes. Yes, that's ours. We didn't report on that necessarily. Joe, you have to have a off-the-cuff status on the.
Yes.
Pretty much.
We're working in the final two segments currently. We should be done by this summer with everything. The main scope of that project was just to add passing lanes, 1 mile stretches, and we should be completing that one, as I mentioned, within the next few months.
Anything else, Rich? Commissioner?
There's some plans for in front of 146 to be going to the middle school. There's a Valero, we don't have plans to widen that, 2 lane now. The entrance and that with the light.
We don't have a plan ourselves to do anything, but we are working with the school district on possibly doing some widening to accommodate their entrance there off of 46. So there is some work there. The intersection of Ralph Fair and 46 will all be part of the Ralph Fair Road FM 3051 study that I mentioned. So there isn't any plans, or really, and I didn't have a slide on this either, but we really have on our radar, we aren't about to kick off, but we need to very soon, will be to look at 46 between Bernie all the way to basically Seguin. There's a lot of traffic growth. 46 is very much an important east-west corridor all along the north side of San Antonio, so very, very important to keep in mind for mobility.
Anything else, Richard?
No, that's it, thank you.
Commissioner?
There's been some discussion about overpass 46 and 3351. Can you comment on that?
Yeah, that'll be part of the Ralph Fair Road study that I just mentioned. That'll go from 46 to I-10. If a overpass is in fact warranted, we'll have a layout to show the public, and we'll be able to kind of work through what that needs to look like and how it can be controlled. A lot of what we're looking at on the Kendall Gateway the recommendations that come out of that may kind of drive as well. So those two studies are starting, we're starting the Ralph Fair Road at a good time. We'll be able to figure out what needs to happen. With the school going in there, I know the reciprocal development that will probably occur as a result of the fact that the school is going in there, we'll need to be looking at that really hard.
Roy, anything else? You good? Carla? Good. Tobin?
I just want to say thank you to Ronnie for the county tech discussion.
Superintendent? Now's your chance. Joe, you're good. Don? All right, Laura, we got there. It's all yours.
So with the Ralph Fair study you're talking about, is the process going to be similar to the Kendall Gateway study with the stakeholder meetings and the workshops and town halls, or is the process going to be different?
It may look a little different, but we would work with you all to help us figure out the best approach with your community, because it's not quite the same study. It's along an existing route. You'd have some pretty well-defined stakeholders. It wouldn't be, countywide necessarily. There would be, I know a lot of folks interested anyway beyond those who live right along there, but usually when it's along an existing road, we do conduct a different public involvement outreach plan. But so I couldn't say just yet. We don't have all that laid out, but we'll work with you along on how to do that.
Look forward to seeing that.
Thanks.
I think this may be the answer, John, that you gave on the study on 3351, but there at I-10 and Ralph Fair Road, where the subdivisions are going in, that's a very precarious intersection there, and not for the faint-hearted. And obviously, a lot of our student drivers and parents are coming down that road, and I don't have any solutions on that, but it's a pretty dangerous spot right now.
I share the same concerns, so I know exactly what you're talking about. Our study will take that into account as far as what we can do at that intersection.
No, sir. None? Dale?
Couple things. One, I'm really glad to hear that there's people that paying attention. That is something going on. Second thing is on the I-10 future limited capacity high occupancy lanes. I guess those are the first ones in the San Antonio area that are going in. And who sets the criteria for the travel from that? Haven't been set already.
And that would be something that the Metropolitan Planning Organization would weigh in on, but the Transportation Commission as well, the Stock Transportation Commission.
Okay.
Anything else? Okay.
Which, by the way, it will be the first one, but there's also another one going in on US 281. They're both under construction today.
Let's go back over here. Anything else that you thought of after we passed you by? No? Text out, Mario, Jonathan, any other comments that you would like to make?
Yes, sir, I just want to close real quick on a couple of things. So you all saw quite a bit of projects. I think when we started these meetings 2 years ago or 3 years ago, I think we had like 3 projects. So you can see the impact of this group working with us closely. I ran the numbers as these guys were talking, and we're at about 250 million on projects already in the implementation phase under construction. And I think the projects we talked about with Ralph Road and the Kendall Gateway probably easily that or more. So it's a great opportunity. We've had some funding that has become available, obviously, through Proposition 1 and Proposition 7. But we still have to be in a position to take advantage of that, and having this group work with us on priorities, on project development, supporting our infrastructure projects, allows us to do that. So really, really important. Again, I appreciate everyone's comments. And we'll keep working with y'all to continue everything on I-10 that we need to finish. Start a new process on 3251. That's going to be very important. And I can see that becoming our next priority corridor for us in this area, as well as obviously continuing 46 and 2018. So a lot of work ahead, but again, this effort really helps us, and I think we can deliver the project for y'all a lot faster that way. So thank you all very much.
Mario, is there anything else that we can be doing to help you facilitate the process?
Oh, I think the main thing is as we go through these public involvement opportunities on the projects, just provide the support that you all have been provided so far with from both the city, the county, and the school district, and both cities. That's critical. Jonathan made a comment that we're not going to be anywhere we're not wanted. That's very critical. And so when we're doing a project, we really want the support of the local community. Otherwise, that project's not going to be successful. Main thing I would ask y'all is help us with the project development, with the stakeholder outreach, so that we can deliver the project y'all want.
Well, we have found great benefit in being good partners with you all, so that's a two-way street, no pun intended.
One way for it.
Roy, he is not here today, but Ron Cisneros, who sits on Bernie City Council, has got a seat on the MPO and Metropolitan Planning Organization. So certainly he is available to Fair Oaks if you want to hear anything. I'm going to speak for him since he's not here. Shame on him. But he's a great source of information coming from the MPO, and that offer is available to anyone as well. Judge, I wanted to thank you. We have there's been 2 projects that we have partnered up with the county, as you know, on Scenic Loop and out here east of town. We partnered up on getting a gateway study going again, and the City of Bernie appreciates the relationship that we've got with you. Thank you, Fair Oaks, for being here with us today. We appreciate that. School District, Rich, Tommy, thank you so much for being a part of this as well. And so it makes it good. It's a good partnership that we can all get together. We can listen from TxDOT. We can learn from TxDOT. They get to listen and learn from us as well. And that makes for a good process. Mario, Jonathan, thank you so much, and Joe and Dale. for your input. Let us know what we can do to work on those crosswalks. They are important to us. We might even have a duck sign up to give them an opportunity to walk across there as well. So we're going to need that. If there are no other questions, I will, Don?
Speaking of signs, there's these great big signs on I-10 and they don't say anything. Could we put like Giga Maggie's go or something on them like that?
I think you got your answer, Don. The roar of the crowd. Anyway. So,
When they make the Final Four?
it is 2:06 and this meeting is adjourned.